I'm happy to announce that I'm now affiliated with HobbyLink Japan. Check the description for more information. Whether you've been building kits for a while or you're just starting up, there's one question that almost every builder comes across. What kit grade should I build next? So today we're going to talk about that, and in front of me I have the 4 major grades: high grade, real grade, master grade, and perfect grade. Now you may notice that one of these kits is not like the other. That's because the only perfect grades I have right now are the aMilla and the perfect grade Unleashed RX-78-2, and I try to touch the real grade RX-78-2 as little as possible. Anyways, with that, let's check them out. So starting off with the history of each grade. The high grade series came out in 1990, starting with the RX-78-2. Now you may be thinking, how did it come out in 1990 if Gunpla has been around since 1980? Well, that's because there were kit classifications before high grade, some of them known as no grade, which is kind of an informal way of specifying the 1/100th or the 1/144th scale kits. There's also other kits such as mobile suit variations. But either way, while Gunpla has actually started in 1980, the high grade line started in 1990. Next on the timeline, we had master grade kits coming out in 1995. The very first master grade kit was also an RX-78-2. That kit specifically, we actually see multiple iterations of, including the 2.0, the 3.0, the Origins, and I believe it's a 1.5. It's either a 1.5 or a 2.5. Then chronologically, after the master grade series, we got the perfect grade series coming out in 1998, with of course the pilot kit being, you guessed it, the RX-78-2. And last but not least, we have our newest line, not including the Perfect Grade Unleashed and Master Grade Extreme lines, the Real Grade kits. These kits came out in 2010, a whole 15 years after the Master Grade series came out, and the very first kit they came out was, you're not gonna believe this, the Real Grade RX-78-2. So yes, each line has started unironically with the RX-78-2, aka the poster boy of the franchise. And with that small history lesson out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at these kits. So first up, we're taking a look at the high grade series. This is the high grade aMilla, I believe the Repair 2. This is going to be in 1/144th scale. Now for each grade, we're going to talk about some features of each line, as well as the pros and cons of them. So the high grade line is going to feature kits with the lowest amount of detail. The detail isn't bad per se, it's just compared to the other grades, these definitely have the lowest amount of detail. And it's important to note that some high grades may be more detailed than the others, such as the high grade Moon Gundam, and not all of the pros and cons we talk about will apply to every kit in a specific grade. Especially newer kits. Newer high grades have been getting better and better, and newer master grades have been phenomenal lately. Anyways, going back to the high grade kit, you'll see that we do have some weapons and a shield. If you look closely, we have some stickers here on the waist armor, as well as the shield detail right here. On the back, we have a GN drive for aMilla that pops off like that, but nothing special is hiding underneath. And one important thing to note about high grades is almost every high grade is going to utilize something known as polycaps. Polycaps are this rubber material that you'll find on the joints of many kits. You can find these on pretty much any grade, but they're especially prevalent on high grade kits. There's nothing inherently bad with them, however, it is worth noting that over time they can degrade and become a little looser, which does affect posability and articulation. Now some pros of this line, they're definitely the cheapest. A good majority of them are going to range between $10 US and $30 US. However, there are some outliers that are way more expensive, such as the high-grade Penelope and the Cassie Gundam, but those are just a small percentage of the entire lineup. And speaking of the entire lineup, another pro of this series is that there are over 300 kits that you could choose from. That's right, according to dalong.net, which is a Korean catalog website for Gunpla, there are over 300 high-grade kits in existence, and that's excluding some special edition kits as well. Another great thing about high-grade kits is they're pretty quick and easy to build. And when I say easy, I'll go over that later. But they're definitely quick to build. A lot of times if I'm building multiple master grades in a row, I'll build a high grade kit next, That way I can get a little bit of breathing room between builds. Another thing I find favorable about high grade kits is that because they're the least bulky of the 4 main lines, I feel like they have a little better stability and articulation. Though once again, this is not the case with every kit, but in general, there's a lot less to worry about moving around or shifting when you're moving limbs. And speaking of limbs, one cool thing about high grade kits that I actually can't show you with this kit specifically right now is that a lot of them use very similar connections. No, not Facebook or LinkedIn connections, but either a peg or ball joint connection at these limbs. The good thing about that is usually that means they're interchangeable with one another. If you've ever seen any of the Gunpla build series, such as Build Divers, Build Fighters, then you'll know that in those animes, they love customizing Gunpla, and it's usually a high-grade kit. Let's take these two kits for example. We have the high-grade Leo, and we have the high-grade Heavy Arms. However, one thing you will find, here on the Leo we have a ball joint connection on the arm, and here on the Heavy Arms we have a ball joint connection on the arm. As you can see, it fits right in, though the tolerances might be a little looser than ideal. Eventually, with enough fumbling around, you can build an absolute monstrosity. Make sure if you're customizing Gunpla this way, you're actually doing it in a cohesive manner. High-grade kits are also much smaller than other grades except for real grades, so you can fit a lot more of them on your shelf. I mean, just look at this perfect grade Exia versus this high grade, and you could probably fit like 20 of these in the amount of space this takes up. And lastly, but probably most importantly, high grades seem to be the most available lately. High grade kits have actually been the more favorable grade to produce. That's because as much plastic as it takes to build a perfect grade kit, Bandai could actually make like 15 high grade kits. And a good majority of the Gunpla community is building high grade kits as opposed to perfect grade kits. So of course Bandai's gonna put a little more focus on the grade with more demand. Now let's talk about some cons of the high grade line. We talked a little bit about it before, but there is a lack of detail on these kits. A lot of times you'll actually see what are known as color correcting stickers, or even in this case, full detail replacing stickers. These lines here on the shield are actually an entire sticker, and it's pretty unsightly if you're looking at it up close. Once again, there is that lack of color separation. Instead of using gray parts for these armor pieces, they're just gray stickers put onto white parts. Another thing specific to the bigger high-grade kits is they usually feel pretty hollow. That's because high-grade kits will almost never have an inner frame. Pretty much every armor piece will connect to some part of the body as opposed to connecting onto a frame, and that ends up leaving you with a kit that's essentially a shell with polycaps inside of it. And lastly, polycaps. Those are definitely a con. They're hard to get the tension right, and like I said before, over time they can degrade, leading to poor articulation and posability. Next, we'll take a look at the Master Grade line. This is the Master Grade Exia Ignition mode, and as you can see, there's a great deal amount more detail than the high grade. There are little to no color correcting stickers on Master Grade kits. This kit specifically only has color correcting stickers for the eyes and the cameras, but those aren't technically color correcting stickers, they're more so just details adding on to the kit. Another feature of Master Grade kits is they will almost always come with a pilot figure. This one is Amuro Ray from the Master Grade Nouveau Ka, but yeah, pretty much every Master Grade will come with a pilot figure like this. Some older ones actually come with a 1/12 scale pilot figure, which is essentially an action figure. Another thing we'll see on Master Grade kits is more gimmicks or mechanical features of the kit. This one, for example, we have these sword mounts, which can actually fold up and go back into the waist to hide if the sword is not mounted on it. And on the back, of course, with the Exia, we're gonna have our GN drive. And speaking of the GN drive, another cool thing about Master Grades is some of them are LED compatible, and some of them even come with the LEDs, such as this kit. But you can see it lit up right there. It's not that much for this kit, but some Master Grades, especially the Master Grade Extreme Unicorn, of course, actually have a great LED performance going on. Though the numbers may not be as impressive as the high grade line, the Master Grade line does include over 200 kits according to Dalong.net. So there's a good chance that you'll be able to find a kit that you like from almost any series. So all of the stuff we talked about are pretty much the pros of Master Grades. They have good detail, they can use LEDs, they have gimmicks, pilot figures. The newer kits especially have better mechanical designs. The community is actually hoping really hard for Master Grade Exia 2.0 using the new GN frame that we see in the Dynamez, Curios, and Virtue. Another pro, but some may see as a con, is that they're a little pricey but still relatively affordable. Master Grades can range anywhere between $30 to 120 on a good day. Now there are master grade kits that go way beyond that, such as the Deep Striker and the Master Grade Extreme Unicorn, but a good majority of master grade kits are in that $50 to $70 range. And last good thing about master grades is they have a good shelf presence. High grades are nice because you can fit a lot on the shelf. Master grades are nice because they're a lot more recognizable from far away. And as to the cons for this grade, well, like I said, they could be a little bit out of your budget. They might take up too much space on your shelf. Another thing about it being so detailed is some of the parts are small and can be easy to lose. And you remember how I said before that high grade kits are easier to build than other grades? Well, I don't really like that kind of thinking. In my opinion, all of the grades are pretty much the same difficulty. It just depends on how much effort you're willing to put into it. And my thing about master grades and perfect grades especially is that though they're the same difficulty as high grade kits, each mistake that you make on the kit is a more expensive mistake, which means you want to be a little more careful, and with that you need to be a little more experienced with model kit building. And lastly, one con about the Master Grade series is there is a little bit of a lessened availability, something we've seen with the more recent releases such as the Eclipse, or even reprints of older kits, is that they're pretty highly coveted. Usually if it's a popular kit, it'll come and go in minutes in a Gunpla store, which a lot of us actually don't have the ability to wait for that notification that a product is in stock. So if you're not there at the right time, you could miss out on a master grade kit that you want. Now moving on to real grade kits, we'll see a lot of the same things that we see in master grade kits. One thing I did forget to mention with master grades is master grades and real grades usually will come with marking decals such as these to give a little bit more detail to the outer appearance. A lot of the early real grade model kits will have a pre-built inner frame where you cut it from the runner, kind of do a little bit of cleanup, and then half of the parts are essentially already put together. Usually real grade kits will come with a pilot figure as well, and scaled properly to the 1/44th scale versus the 1/100th scale. I want to say that no real grade kits use polycaps, but I'm not 100% certain on that because I haven't actually taken a look at every single real grade kit. But speaking of every single real grade kit, according to Dalong.net at the time of this video, there are 36 different real grade kits available to choose from. I feel like real grade kits are actually starting to take the community by storm because the more recent releases have been really good, and they still stay within that relatively budget price of maybe between $30 and $50. Now the pros of real grade kits are pretty much the same as master grade kits, with the added benefit of being able to add multiple kits onto a shelf because they're smaller. And the main con that you'll find with real grade kits is, like I said, the earlier real grade kits had a built-in inner frame. That inner frame is pretty prone to failing. It causes a lot of stability issues most of the time. Some people may even refer to it as early real grade syndrome, but the newer kits have abandoned that pre-built inner frame technology and are much more stable. And lastly, that brings us to perfect grade kits. This kit is definitely very special to me because it's my first perfect grade kit, and it's also the main suit of one of my favorite Gundam series. I'm gonna try not to take it off of the stand to showcase some of the details, so it might get a little weird to pose it, but we'll see. As you can hopefully see, there is an absolute massive amount of detail, both in the model kit as well as the stand for it. We can see that even the accessories have gimmicks to them, such as being able to open and close like that to show that green glow on the inside. And definitely one of the cooler points of this kit are the LEDs. Of course, with the size and the amount of plastic being used, it's going to be really hefty, which means it's going to feel pretty stable. Now, stable doesn't necessarily mean it can balance well, so it's important to use a stand, which is why I'm glad that this one comes with one. Some other ones do also come with stands, but you want to check based off of the perfect grade kit you're looking at. Now, going on to pros of this kit, I mean, it's a perfect grade kit. It's like the pinnacle of Gunpla. Most builders end up saving up for years before they buy their first perfect grade kit. The details just super crazy. The kits that can integrate an LED unit are just, they look crazy. And when you build one of these, there's just a greater sense of satisfaction when you finally complete it. And on the flip side, we have the cons. They can be really expensive. I bought this one a little cheaper, but usually this kit with the lighting kit included can go anywhere between $200 to $300. And of course, they're very time consuming. They're definitely not for the casual builder. You have to be able to set aside a good amount of time to start and finish the project. But when you finally do, you get something that is exquisite and an awesome centerpiece for your shelf. So that's it, you guys, my comparison for the 4 major grades in the Gunpla universe. Make sure you comment down below which grade is your favorite and why, and maybe I might have missed something that, would be important for others to know about a specific grade. As usual, thank you to my Patreons. I know I haven't been that consistent with content creation lately, but I'm glad that you're still supporting me. And speaking of which, we finally reached 5,000 subscribers for the channel. Super happy about that. I do want to do a giveaway, but this one's going to be a little different for a giveaway. Normally, I've given away kits and tools in the past, but this time I'm going to give away something different. If you haven't noticed, I'm actually wearing a new shirt that I got. I designed this myself and I call it my Essentials tee. Technically, I can't make shirts with Gundam artwork on them because that's copyright infringement. So instead, I made a shirt by a builder for builders. And I'm going to be giving away 3 of these to 3 people who comment down below. Like I said before, just let me know what your favorite grade is, why, and if there's anything I missed about a specific grade. If you don't end up winning one of these shirts and you really want one, don't worry, I don't have a storefront up right now, but if you DM me on Discord or Instagram, I'd be more than happy to get something set up with you. But anyways, that's it for the video, and in the meantime, you guys have a great rest of your day and start building.